Into the Nexus is a production of amove.tv. Bookmark Amove TV for other great video games and esports podcasts. Into the Nexus is sponsored by listeners like you via patreon.com/ITN. Welcome back, everybody. This is Into the Nexus, the podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. Hi, I'm Garrett. He's Kyle, and we're here. It's been a weird day if you're, in the content creation, crowdfunding landscape. But that will not stop us, Kyle. That will not stop us. That will not wig us out. That will not make me start this show on a note that if you're not in that landscape, if you're not aware of it, if you're not supporting us on something like Patreon, you know nothing of it. So it's just bizarre.
Not that people might find tilt in other places. And just like everything, I urge patience through this time.
I do too. I just need to think on this for a day or two. That's what I need to do.
Some things are changing. Patreon.com/ITN. Check out a recent post if you're not familiar on the up and up. But there's also tons of Heroes news going about. And there is a new something we have to announce because we get a little off topic on this show from time to time. But we have alleviated that stress bottle. We're still going to get off topic from time to time. I'm sure of it.
We'll still
with
be
a
human
new show.
Beings. Yeah, we have a new podcast that we started up. It will be coming to you on Mondays, recorded around noonish time Eastern. We do not have a live show at this time. We're still feeling it out. But, Kyle, you and I now have a podcast called Week Sauce. And week is spelled like days of the week. There is apparently another Week Sauce on there that posted 2 episodes in 2015. That is not us.
It's true. You can tell it by the one that has Garrett and Kyle on it.
Yes. It looks like a Tabasco logo. I totally ripped it off. But this, is a new podcast where we talk about basically everything but Blizzard games. And Blizzard games still come up from time to time, but the basic gist is to get on and get you all ready for the week. We want to give you a show that on Mondays, in the middle of your workday, you can throw on and will help power you through your first day back at the job with a heaping of complete nerdy nonsense.
Love it.
Yeah. So go give that a listen now. Heroes. Heroes is also about to have some big changes, Kyle.
Heroes is also on fire.
Everything in your life is built on shaky ground. Nothing is for certain. Nothing is forever. Just watch TV with me.
It's true, man. My experience this past week was a highlight of the human condition. The entire weekend was absolute insanity. Double support was dead. 100% dead. Morales was first pick material. Malfurion after that. There came a time when we had to ban Nazebo. In fact, Nazebo started getting first picks because he's bugged, and Superstition is now constant if you die with it active. So that's still happening in the game right now. And so amongst all this, everyone is just saying no, and I'm still first picking my Uther because that's what I've done all season. And I solo support a lot of Uther games this week. They were about 50-50, usually based on the team around me. If I had Sonya and Muradin, I knew I didn't have to heal my tanks. They could take care of themselves, and I could focus everything on the carry. Sometimes you don't get that Greymane Vala, you get a Junkrat. And that was more likely to happen because the Valas and Greymanes were so used to being the hyper carries that they hit Friday the weekend and went, hang on, I'm not invincible anymore. What gives? I don't want to play this character anymore. So they all switched over to Asmodans and Specialists and Sylvanas, and some really healthy things started developing. By the time Monday came around, frustrating things, because still I'm thinking to myself, there's so much damage inside these hyper carries. Why don't we just double support them? It's the easiest comp in the world. But on the flip side, I saw Sylvanas, I saw Butchers on Infernal Shrines, I saw Kael'thas's, Malthael's, Jaina's, Artanis's, Ragnaros's, Murky's, Divas. Like, across the board, hero picks were fabulously diverse.
Dude.
For the first time in a long time.
I got hard by some Kael'thas's this week. And it made me realize I could, if you asked me, Kyle, when the last time I played against a Kael'thas was, I don't have an answer for you. I am not practiced against this hero. I was getting just slammed by living bombs, slammed by convections, slammed by those gravity lapses. If you want, basically, if you end up in a game and there's a guy on the other team named Garrett, there's a few of us out there, but if it's me, just choose Kael'thas. I'm still terrible against him again, apparently.
We all have our weaknesses. I will reveal that I do not like fighting Stitches. It used to be a bigger trouble for me, though, because I was very on that Suljin Nazebo train at the time. Now that I've gotten Val on the roster, I do a lot better.
I've just been, I don't know. The Stitches I've gone up against, it's been weird. Every time I've jumped back into quick match and gone on Valera, I've gotten a Stitches, and it's been kind of fun killing Stitches and taking smoke bombs. So when they gorge you and throw you up, you just pop smoke bomb and survive, and they just wasted their heroic.
So has anything changed in the sort of quick match and unranked form for you? Was the Rage or Salt redirected anywhere interesting outside those Kael'thas's?
I haven't stopped seeing questionable play all season. It's just been weird and bizarre, and so I don't know. And when I see stuff like that, I know some listeners out there are just like, "Oh, stop crapping on lower leaguers." It's like, well, clearly they're not lower leaguers. We're on the same MMR because I'm playing with them. And also, I am part of that problem as well. I'm a man without a religion at the moment. I don't have a hero that I feel particularly strongly about. I don't have a main at the moment. I feel like a lot of this, like the entire time between BlizzCon and this Tuesday when the new patch drops, I have just been sitting here holding my breath, waiting for that patch to come so that I could just main a bunch of supports and play this game the way I always wanted to.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I feel like right now, everything I'm doing is a waste of my time in an educational aspect. I'm learning absolutely nothing. Or at least I feel like what I learn will be irrelevant next Tuesday.
That's fair. When everyone starts missing their skill shots all of a sudden, what kind of world and what sort of meta comes on top of that?
Yeah.
Things are going to be bizarre next week.
Yeah, because if you remember at the beginning of the season, I got super tilted. You were gone, actually. I got tilted because my placements went terrible. I was thrown an entire league's worth of leagues below where I was last season. On top of the previous season, I also had the best team league placement ever, the best team league placement you can have. So I was running high, and then I got to this season, got thrown low, had Dunk Train take a look at my play. So I got super salty about everything. So I was looking at the world thinking no one knows how to play, and I still feel like no one knows how to play, but I'm part of the problem as well.
It's a good time to be experimenting, though. In fact, on this week, too, I went window shopping. I was very scared after my experience on Friday through the weekend and into Monday's Hero League stream. I continued to pick Uther. It was just my auto pick, and someone would always fill it out in the past, even in Tyrande, but nobody wanted to play them. And nobody wanted to play the off supports either, and rightly so. Tassadar, Monk, Tyrande, they all got nerfed just as bad as the other ones. Saw a lot of Tyraels and Zarya's trying to kind of fill that place, but it wasn't quite working out. When you picture the escape, the invisibility, the options that those off supports have.
Yeah, and it would not make for a positive environment, I think, if we had some type of indication of how recently people have played these heroes or how many games they have played with these heroes. But I would find it interesting because then at least I would know what to take away from this. Is it just because everyone is unpracticed with characters like Tyrael and Zarya? Is everyone having a knee-jerk reaction and going to those heroes? And is that why they're unsuccessful? Or are they unsuccessful because they're just undertuned or they're just bad for the meta at the moment? You get what I'm saying?
I mean, yeah, definitely. Because my big horror was that I suddenly mained in a hero towards the end of the season that is now completely out. What I actually learned was that it's not out, but getting a second support is difficult. Being the second support is easy, and people still love it, and it still 100% flies fantastically, particularly with something like Kerrigan right now, who was already getting solo supported, so she's not playing like a complete boob out there like the Valas and the Greymanes are. So my strategy just adapted. I am now early picking assassins or a tank if we sort of have that conversation. And then my support pick is later on when those people are more likely to not want to support and they see themselves in the bottom going, oh, this is not my role.
Yeah. And hopefully they're communicating that to you.
And they are. And that's an artifact of my league as well. There's quite a bit of communication in the draft. I am seeing tons of masters and grandmasters in my games right now, and that's a lot of fun. But when nerfs like this happen, things are going to be really sporadic in all leagues, maybe because people abandon the heroes, but also they want to. If you've been playing nothing but Val and Greymane your entire season and they come through and do something that messes with that, you're pretty happy for it. I mean, I was actually rather pleased to end up on random stuff like Leoric and just having a bit of fun at the expense of my rank in the end, but I did have a lot of fun this week. Still managed to hold on, but
yeah, and personally, I've been having a lot of fun as well. Outside of just like my solo games, I've been playing a lot with friends lately, just a ton with friends, and really enjoying it. I don't know, this is a multiplayer game, and I don't know why it's typically so antisocial for me. I guess Hero League, maybe they changed the Hero League, and it's hard to find 4 other people to go in the team league.
Well, the time investment too. Like you don't just walk into team league and say, we're 5 stack, get out the way. Oh, they're 5 stack too. They might have been practicing for years. I mean, the feeling of relaxation, it kind of like a Dungeons & Dragons game in that way. It takes a good year before everything starts rolling and you just kind of know what characters are going to do and how people are going to play. And you can start to have a lot of fun with that. But at first it's like, why is that your play style? Do we really need that pick? Is that your main? It can be a little tough.
It's a Joss Whedon show. Is that what you're saying? The first episode,
yeah.
You're like, why is everyone so crazy about this show? And by the end of it, you're crying because there's no more.
Right. Well, no one's really gotten good, and you didn't really win, but you feel like the heart was there.
I've been playing a lot with our good friend Gotti. And he and I played with 2 other Into the Nexus fans yesterday. We lost every game. I had a great time. Just so much fun. It really helps Gotti has a head for this kind of thing. He's very good at cracking wise when things are going bad. You have this analytical mind that kind of calms everyone down and like, this is what we should be doing. Yes, we're very far behind. It's not guaranteed, but this is our best course of action. And that also calms me down. But Gotti just makes me laugh. So it helps.
Having raid experience makes you sometimes, not everybody, a more fun video gamer when things go bad.
I think that's a very good point. Well, let's get into this week's Heroes of the Storm news and talk about just what's going on right now and what's going to be happening in just a few days.
We're on, boys! Ha-ha! Let's liven up this place!
Can Stitches play now? Put me to the stage.
Stitches can play now. Even Kyle's just going to have to deal with it. All right,
no, Stitches can absolutely play. He has self-regeneration. I want him more than Anubarak and Varian and Arthas, and those solo supports need help out there.
I've been out on Anubarak for a very long time.
He's good. There are some situations like a Malthael that can only be answered by an Anubarak, and in all seriousness, outside of like Stukov being really sweet and landing that massive arm perfectly.
Fair enough. But okay, dude. So last week, the majority of the episode just lived in the shadow of the Supportocapysle, and we mostly said, "Let's just wait and see. Maybe people are overreacting. We actually kind of like the changes. Oh my God, the picks around us have been interesting." You started off this episode saying picks are still interesting, still having a good time, still managed to climb even though you fell back a little bit, it sounds like. What happened, man? What happened with Supportocapysle? Did we overreact?
Yes.
And I said that like all of us together, not like not specifically what you and I talked about last week, but our community as a whole.
It was a disappointment, and the support role, not even using the terminology Blizzard supplied us, but just being a guy in the background or maybe an addition, an accessory, it hurt a lot of people, and they simply didn't want to play the role anymore. They didn't feel like it was their best option for power and climb, and that's understandable. But you can get rid of their lane clear. You can get rid of some of their damage. However, 2 people, 2 eyes, 4 eyes, I guess is better than 2. Gosh, that doesn't work well. You're supposed to do it with heads. that it's still best for a really chaotic environment where we're not focus firing as much. Monk can solo support esports because the focus fire is so high that Divine Palm is going to do that sort of catch. So by the time Wednesday hit, I was back in a double support meta. Enough streams, maybe even HGC gave it a little go, but I'm not actually sure on those stats yet as it just started up. Things are fine. But we do live in a lower damage world, particularly for Tassadar, Rhaegar, and Morales, funnily enough. Morales' grenade build was actually doing a lot of damage. And when people started solo picking Morales, much to my like, whoa, you're not practiced. Why would you you're a grandmaster. In the first day of a new patch, you pick Morales? Are you crazy? But I digress. That was a powerful healing option and a solo option when we thought the meta was going to go that way.
I mean, and also, I mean, were they just blind solo picking Morales, or was there discussion discussion being had in the chat with everyone else going, nope, I'm not going to grab a support?
No, this was first pick. It was like, I know one support in this meta that survived this nerf and has enough throughput. Let me get you Morales nice and early. In my experience this week, she still is a really solid solo support.
She is.
She's dive resistant, which the meta has continued to be, and nerfing support only encourages dive burst in general more. Mm-hmm. But Morales has her self armor, her self-healing. While it's more scary for her than others, Malfurion same too. You're thinking he's a squishy guy. He's dive resistant. It's because the roots. You throw him under your feet with an alt click and you run backwards. The dive is now contained, at least for a time.
Right. It might buy you that half a second for your team to respond to the dive. And you should be rolling hots on yourself ahead of that anyway.
When we look at win rates on something like Hots Logs, which has its issues and is uploaded by users and all that sort of discretion, Medivh has traditionally been the bottom of the barrel since his release almost. And for the first time ever, we have some people hanging out below him since the Nova rework. And that's Tassadar, actually. Tassadar plummeting in popularity, but also win rate down to 43%.
Looks like he just eked out back above Mr. Medivh. Just barely.
Then it was time to refresh. That's right. He got his extra 0.1 in there. Congratulations. Well, then that leaves Hammer at the lowest win rate at the moment, falling a full 9% with the rework. Yeah, down to 42% win rate in Hero League.
So are you just chalking Hammer up to a quick match stomper, and Hero League is just too? It's in a draft environment, unless you're last picking her, she's just going to get countered.
Right, this is like the on-paper OP, which is what I gotta applaud Blizzard for the most. Everything they've done this year with reworks, the on-paper OP is amazing. We all look at Gazlo reworks and Novas or whatever's coming down the pipeline and go, no, surely not. You're insane, Blizzard. How could you do this? Release this on the Populi. But then we get a hold of it and we realize everything in its own bubble, particularly when you add a draft to it, isn't quite as good as we thought. One of the big tricks that's happening with Hammer right now is all her abilities are empowered by Siege. So she sieges at bad times, and players wrongfully do so. The other big problem is that her Unstoppable is tied to her armor. So lots of people are hitting that sweet Unstoppable button, getting that 50 armor, but in Hero League scenarios, the stuns come first and the damage comes afterwards. It's not a clean dive. So you're looking at a Kael'thas doing his gravity laps through there. Hammer is avoiding that 50 armor for that moment, but then comes out the other side of it, no armor when the dive actually connects. When that Greymane goes, oh, Kael'thas stunned that. I should get over there.
Yep. All good points. All good points. And then, like, on the opposite end, I'm still confused seeing Butcher so high on the win rates.
Butcher, if there are less supports, there's less buddy systems. The maps are all pretty big right now in the rotation. Butcher is always going to succeed in confusing environments. Tracer, Samuro, Murky, Sylvanas, Sonya, Ragnaros. Look at this list. They're all just guys who, if you happen to be busy in your head, you're going to lose to because they're off in some lane doing something amazing, pushing an advantage, snowballing the game a bit.
All right. Okay. So I should be taking Butcher.
You might want to. Yeah, it's not a bad time for it. There are less CCs on the team. The problem is the majority of leagues haven't caught back on to double support. So you're going to see probably from plat down to silver, a overreaction of double tanks, and Butcher can really get caught in the clog. And when you look at Butcher's pick rates on something like Hero League on hot slogs, they're pretty low. These are late game picks. And that's the problem with Hammer, is that she's got a high pick rate over the last 7 days, which means she's being picked outside of last pick with plenty of room for counters.
And traditionally, you and I, when we talk about the not the science, but the practice behind trying to climb in a solo queue environment, taking as much of your own destiny into your hands as you possibly can, and finding those main heroes that you can play in most situations. Would you say a hero like Butcher is dangerous because it is something that should be taken later in the draft? So
I'd say so.
Yeah, if I'm trying to main it like you and I both used to main Tychus back in numbered ranked days, before Diamond, Gold, Master, Grandmaster, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the nice thing about Tychus is you had that ETC interrupt, which was a force at the time because we had so few tanks and just a lot of options there. Double support was not a thing. Tychus, actually, side note here, made a really big comeback this week because of the double support tryout meta, you could say, that has hence already been canned. But Tychus looking pretty good again.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of investment in heavy front lines. Actually, I don't know why this didn't pop into my brain earlier when you asked me what the hell I've been noticing. I've been noticing that. I've been noticing very heavy front lines. A surprising amount of folks going back to Diablo, which I disagree with, actually. But all of that has made me think to myself, I guess Tychus again.
Are you seeing the Diablo into Tychus?
In a draft environment, if the Diablo gets drafted rather early on, I just pick Tychus afterwards.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, Diablo is another expected climber because of this change, because of his Devil's Due ability. Also, if Burst and Dive takes off, he's got that Soul Shield giving him 25% armor against spells.
He is up, but not even by a full percent. We're talking minimal movement for Mr. Dibbles. But so anyways, back to what we were trying to talk about. You're talking about who kind of dropped with these changes, how the dust has settled. So you talked about Tassadar. You talked about Morales' grenade build, but Morales, I think, is still, at least in my experience, still quite popular. It's just the
Rhaegar is the other big one.
Yeah. What do you think of that one? Because that's one where I think Rhaegar is still good. You just have to play him differently. And you poor Rhaegar players. Good Lord, if you've been playing Rhaegar since the very beginning of Heroes of the Storm, I believe you have had to learn how to play your hero the most. I'm trying to think of a hero who has changed as often and as drastically as Rhaegar. Because he is now he started as a frontline brawling healer. They took all of that away from him and made him like a backline healer again. And then they gave him just enough back to make him want to kind of get ballsy again and start fighting. And our Rhaegar started going for those bites again and those leaps. And now we're all the way back again to where maybe he should be hanging out in the back and playing safe again.
Yeah, is Rhaegar the bunker of Heroes of the Storm?
Oh, are we talking Wings of Liberty bunker? Yeah, I think he might be. I think he might be, Kyle.
Just keeps getting poked around. There's got to be. I know Nova's been through a few, but you might be right.
But I think this most recent change is a less drastic change of pace from when the ancestral self-cast change came in, right? Because you were just an ass. You could get in there. You could go so deep. You could play like no support in this game ever has, which is to say, like you shouldn't, but because you could self-cast full heal yourself back in a save, that's how you could play him, and that's what made him cool. When they took that away, that was a massive adjustment Rhaegar players had to make, and we saw it, man. People tried for 2 weeks to keep playing Rhaegar like we used to play Rhaegar, and it did not work. This, we couldn't self-cast Ancestral 2 weeks ago. We can't do it now. Your lane clear has just, the lane clear is really what's hurting you more than anything, and it's still not bad. I'd still rather, like I said last week, I would still rather have Rhaegar go, damn it, no one's reporting. Okay, I'm going to go clear this than most other supports in the game.
I think the chat has it. Anubarak is our bunker character because his health, maybe not rework-wise, but his poor little health and shield amount has been pushed around constantly.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, you're right. Rhaegar and Anubarak are sitting in the break room going, can you believe this? Can you believe what they're doing to us again?
The Rhaegars were exploding everywhere in my league. It was very sad. They were used to double support. They would go for the butt bite, end up deep in enemy lines without the shield on them because they cast it on the main tank when we did the engage, and then their bite took them too deep, so there wasn't the sandwich of that lightning bond. Most I've seen going Wolf Run in their games for that bonus movement speed at 1. But his win rate's fine. He's doing flat 50% right now. It's just his popularity is way down. People are bummed.
I want that Ancestral, man. I really do. I want that Bloodlust in comps where you want Bloodlust. So to everyone out there if you were doing a good job on Rhaegar, I want everyone to go right now. If you keep your HOTS logs up to date, go over, look at your Rhaegar stats. If you were in the green, consider getting back on Rhaegar, please. Saying
that, man, remember Rhaegar? Remember what a force he was? That's like saying remember Kael'thas on release. When Rhaegar got reworked, he and Thrall received a rework at the same time. This was almost a year ago, I feel like now. And the Earthquake out of Thrall was so slowing, and the Bloodlust was so recently buffed that everyone was getting destroyed by this in Apocalypse. But on top of this, at the same time, was a bug on Raynor where Hyperion's shots, its laser beams from space, would all get the benefits of every auto attack talent that Raynor would pick. So there was this weird, bizarre 2-week period where everyone was maining Raynors and taking nothing but auto attack talents the entire way to 20 and dropping Hyperions on top of this blob.
I remember that. It was kind of cool, actually. I don't want to go back to that.
No.
But I'm glad that I lived through it. It's a good story to tell.
I too picked up Raynor during that time, and I climbed dramatically. I felt pretty bad about it and stopped.
Yeah.
Similar things going on with Nzebo, actually, right now. If you're looking at popularities and win rates, win rate not so much. He's gained himself a sweet 1.5% with his sweet bug. But that bug I mentioned, permanent superstition, 40% spell armor at all times, has caused a lot of sudden first pick Nzebos out there.
Yeah, I'm glad to see that the increase in win rate is only minor. I'm also glad to see that it's not going down. But I wonder if that bug was not in place, if it would be going down. Although I don't think we'd also see a surge in popularity if there wasn't a known bug.
Yeah, and I still do my build, which is rather odd with the zombie uproot, and I like Ice Block anyway. So I played him this week quite a bit, actually, but only because the meta demanded. And so we were joking that Nzebos have heard the call. It's just, everyone played Nzebo all of a sudden. It just kind of happens. There's a feeling. You flip the tarot card, and all of a sudden, Nzebos, let's all do it. But I avoided the talent. I'm very proud of myself.
Did you get raged at when you didn't take that talent? Did word spread that fast that was the correct way to build Nzebo?
Yeah, we won, so people didn't turn back around on the score screen and start finding excuses.
All right, well, that's good. That's good. All right, so other than Nzebo's rocketing in popularity, we talked about Tassadar plummeting in win rate, Rhaegar dropping in popularity, Morales' grenade build going down. What's going up? Who has emerged from the Supportocalypse victorious?
Alex Straza's the big winner. It's surging in popularity due to her percent-based heal, actually. Dropping that on the ground now with its slightly better range, I think they gave us last patch.
Yep.
It's doing a lot for her. And she didn't receive nerfs because she was already in line with the future thought process of Blizzard.
One thing about that, though, because her Q is based on her own health and her health was brought down, that means her Q was technically healing less than it used to.
That's true. So she did receive a bit of a nerf in that way.
We didn't catch that last week, so I just wanted to make sure we brought that up. A lot of folks tweeting, emailing, and YouTubing that comment. So we heard you. We missed that bit. Sorry, folks.
almost everyone's doing Cleansing Flame, where you leap into the air and can shoot healing rains down, damaging. It's a fantastic talent. It works great with your dragon form. Altogether, I've been extremely pleased with the Alexstraszas I've seen this week, and they're great with an Uther.
Yeah. I'm not moving to Alexstrasza, but I'm learning how to play alongside one.
Get in that cone. Take advantage of those areas. Don't stand the areas you don't like. That's a good thing to do, too. Don't feel required.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't need the heal.
Yeah. Don't cause an area that's going to cause body blocks and bunch up. But you still see people doing it, and, you know.
For me, I feel like the big kind of brain break point for me that kind of like locked everything into place was realizing that if I'm going to retreat into an Alexstrasza heal, okay, and I can see it coming. I know the enemy is about to drop something on where that heal is going. Just keep retreating. Just keep running back. So, like, if you were going to die by not taking the heal, or you're going to die by taking the heal, just run away. Just pretend that heal never got there in the first place. Don't get trapped by it. But also don't let you get too down on Alexstrasza's potential. And it's sadly, it's a really fast call you typically need to make in these scenarios. But I've been playing a bit on the safer side. We'll see what you think the next time we get into a game and an Alexstrasza is healing and I'm on damage. I'm anxious to get your opinion on if you think I'm being a little too cagey.
At this time, I would say no. I think people who are anybody who is more experienced in a solo support meta should be taking the carries right now. It's a lot safer.
All right, cool. What about Lily? I was actually, I mentioned last week, kind of liking her. I would like a little more control over that heal still, but how did she fare?
She got up a full 5%, taking her out of that 45% spot, now at a flat 50. Lily's doing okay. Popularity's real bad, though, because people want to do damage. They're used to doing that big hit with the wins, and they're still a little disappointed. But she's finding a place as a support.
Yeah. And then I see a note in here about Uther.
That's just for me.
I know it is.
That,
I'm about to ask. Is it just for you?
Yeah, that was me there.
That was just you. It was Kyle personally increasing Uther's win rate.
9,000 games played. I contributed about 10 of those this week. I helped.
I thought you were about to admit that you went on some hero's bender and contributed a significant portion to that statistic.
The only other guy to talk about is Zul'jin, who is down 5.4%. Poor guy has received nerfs and reworks, trying to take both of his builds in line with each other. And this last one really just kind of removed some spell viability and pushed people back towards Dingoes. Dingoes has all the problems it previously had with blinds and counterage and lack of mobility. So you're going to still see a lot of Zul'jins. He's still powerful. He's still the freshest auto attacker, I think, in a lot of Grandmaster's eyes. So you might see Zul'jin for coming weeks trickling downwards, because it's not Vala, because it's not Greymane, it's new.
All right. I mean, what do you think everyone's doing? What's going wrong here? Was it that everyone had become so dependent on Guillotine that with its nerf, they're having issues pivoting?
A little bit. It's also just the nerf was intense. When you remove a talent that reduces the cooldown on your spinning axes, that sort of randomized damage output really changes things. I mean, what sort of win rate would Diablo have if you mess with Flame Stomp? It doesn't seem like a big deal, but all those little pokes amount to a win.
Well, and it affects the battlefield, even if for only a second.
Yeah.
If people are reacting to it, it's changing where opponents are standing.
As funny as it is, too, Zul'jin, with all his stacks and that need to get sweet quests done on maybe a vulnerable front line, if it's not a vulnerable front line, you're fully stacked and you suck. And it's a very painful position to be in double tank, particularly when things regeneration tanks. Dahaka, Sonya, Hooky guys, Stitches, Artanis, when these guys all get back in the meta, Zul'jin's going to suffer with his lack of mobility again. Even though he's wailing really hard on those front guys, he's not hitting the money in the background, the core, the kidneys.
Yeah, I want to definitely bring up Sonya because nobody gives a crap. They're still taking poison spears. She seems to be doing fine. I'm a happy man to see a Sonya beside me right now.
Yeah, nobody cared. Nobody cared a lick. And in fact, Sonya is dictating every solo lane right now. It's a problem in Blizzard's eyes. They mentioned it during the QA. Every time you look at a solo lane, you say, do they have Sonya? No? Okay, then we can take X. How does X interact with the kind of tiers going down from Sonya? It's all based on her. Thrall's win rate's low because Sonya beats him. We don't see a lot of Ragnaros because Ragnaros doesn't see a lot of play. So when someone picks Ragnaros and they fight Sonya and Sonya's main, they get crushed. There's lots of Sonya mains out there. So it's a tough equation, and just nerfing her into the ground, those won't make the barbarians happy. They have to move very gingerly, and I'm not sure where you do that. I would say in the 16-20 department, those nerves of steel and ignore pain don't leave much to talent diversity, and I see Sonya's get tilted on hard if you avoid those two picks.
Yeah.
Look at her win rate. I mean, it goes up. Naturally to assume if you get to level 20, you are likely to win because you got that high level. But the win rate goes from almost a flat 50% to 85% at Nerves of Steel.
Man. So I'm looking at wins by hero level?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no, this is just talents when we're looking at the flat talents there.
Oh, gotcha. That's nuts. Yeah, you're
and
right.
The pick rate. Oh, I confused the two. That's the pick rate all the same. We still go up a whole 10% almost.
Yeah, win percentage. Yeah, okay. So it's at least looking at hot logs, it stays around. God, even off talents, Leap is only less than 2% behind Wrath of the Berserker. Level 13, every single talent has an above 50% win rate. It's beautiful. That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see on all the heroes.
Then you get to level 16 and you got 5%, 6%. How about Imposing Presence with a sweet 3%? And then that 85 I wrongfully mentioned there. But yeah.
Yeah, that's the pick rate on Nerves of Steel, but that's okay. Yeah. The win rate also increases. It jumps to 57% on Nerves of Steel. But whatever the case is, I'm glad. To me, I'm just going to take this as Sonya players are passionate, and they will not be misdirected by slight changes in the wind. And I like it. I like it a lot. Let's talk about something I don't like a ton. Hanzo, not my favorite hero in the world. I still have not been convinced that this is the hero for me. If anything, the more I try him, the more I dislike this hero. It's just not for me, man. Not for me.
Can I give you a horrible sell right now based on a level 20 talent?
Anytime Kyle asks me if he can give me a horrible sell, the answer is yes.
All right. Play of the game at level 20. You shoot off. This is your Dragon's Arrow. It has a global range, and as it hits these increments, think about, in the new camera system, by the time it gets across your camera, it is at maximum stun duration and damage, going from half a second stun if you shoot it in your face to that full distance stun of 2 seconds and about 3 times the damage.
Man, Kyle, you were right. That is a terrible sell.
Okay. But it gets better. That's your level 20 pick, okay? Seems kind of lame. Maybe you'll hit something from really far away and do a bunch of damage. That might be nice. At level 20, you get play of the game, where you shoot it, and at any point during its travel, you can teleport to its new location. If it hits, you full-blown reactivate it and Hawkeye through the air with a backflip, loading up the bow Legolas and launching it midair into their face. If you hit with this and reactivate it, you teleport to that location and do bonus damage while making a really sick display of it.
That sells me a lot more. Sadly, it's still at level 20. So, hey, Garrett, here's this really cool thing you might do in 75% of your games if you're lucky.
It's also up against Bullseye, which causes your reveal arrow to stun if it hits. Too bad the stun circle is about the size of half your cursor. So there's also some lame ones in here. I mean, really, are we just down on Hanzo because it looks like a main character and it just doesn't bring utility?
You mean a character that everyone's going to main?
Right, that you have to main to be decent at, and that means that the players who select Hanzo won't have alternatives.
Oh, meaning if they get in the game and they are not godlike, they're not going to be bringing much else with them.
Right.
Yeah, I'm down on that. I'm personally down on Hanzo just because I think Hanzo's lame. I just think it's a lame character. Genji's infinitely cooler. I'm Team Genji. You have to pick a side, by the way. You have to. I am Team Genji.
Oh, you do?
Yes, you have to pick a side.
Okay.
Sorry, man. I'm sorry to tell you this, but you got to pick a side.
Oh man, I need some time to decide. Honestly,
I am 100% Team Genji. Hanzo can take a hike. He tried to kill his brother. His brother ain't dead. His brother's cooler now as a result of Hanzo's treachery.
Well, when it gets to Overwatch, my experience is pretty small. I feel like when I got kills on Hanzo, I was very proud of myself. I did a good job. Whereas when I won on Genji, I was running randomly up walls and face rolling on my keyboard as fast as I could.
Well, on Hanzo, you're just shooting arrows without aiming and getting kills. So
That's not. I'm aiming on that perfect arc over the bridge, so their faces come up over the top of it. And I'm doing that constantly because I don't know when they're going to walk around the corner.
Okay, so you're not aiming. Well, you're aiming at one spot,
I'm camping,
hoping that eventually someone will intersect with your shot. Congratulations, you're a Hanzo player.
They do.
But anyways, don't let my bias of Hanzo dissuade you. If you got into the PTR early on when Hanzo jumped into it, or if you tried Hanzo at BlizzCon and you had the same takeaway many of us had, which was, he feels a little undertuned. Fear not, he got buffed on the PTR. Should be hitting the live game next week with these buffs. Stormbow's damage is up. Scatter Arrow's damage is up. Sonic Arrow's damage is up. Dragon Strike, Dragon's Arrow. Every single basic and heroic ability on Hanzo has been increased.
There is one window for Hanzo to hit the meta strongly, and it's on things like Infernal Shrines. At level 4, you are required to pick a minion monster, and some of them have mercenary kind of talents. One is that basic attack instantly kills all minions. Once you do that, you get 3 seconds of increased range to 7.5. So imagine maybe Braxis. You fire one arrow into the lane, pop it, it dies instantly, turn around, start shooting with advanced range onto the pad.
He needs that because of how slow his attack is. Otherwise, you just can't lane with him.
No, and there are much better options to lane clear with him than doing something like this, ignore all distractions, basic attack kills instantly. That comes to Scatter Arrow at level 4, which deals 150% bonus damage to minions, mercenaries, and monsters. And as the thing bounces around more and more and splits into more arrows and you complete quests, this does sound like a pretty prime Infernal Shrines kind of clear guy.
You're selling me on that. All right. Cool.
And since BlizzCon, they added wall ghosts. I don't know how to describe them. It's like he has senses as to the angles of the walls. You're no longer left to your own devices. When a tree sort of boxes into the lane, but that's the foliage on top, this sight that he has just at all times allows you to see the actual angles of those walls. That would be useful for Diablo, for Ariel, to know if they're going to connect correctly or not.
Yeah, can we get that on them? Also, Genji can jump over walls and whatnot. That'd be helpful. I mean, I guess no. Give it to Oriel and Diablo. I was gonna say, I guess with Hanzo the angles are more important than with other heroes, but no, it's just as important for Oriel and for Diablo.
The scary thing about this is the Rexar issue, where long ago Rexar came out with fabulous talents for clearing lanes or taking mercenary camps. And they wanted Rexar to participate in the game a bit more. They wanted him to be a team player, and they inched off those, and now Rexar is rarely seen. If they nerf these talents, that might give Hanzo viability to non-Hanzo mains. We could see that same situation develop again, and we simply lose the hero from sight.
Well, no use worrying about things that have not yet come to pass.
Exactly.
Get out there and enjoy him if you want. Kill me with him and laugh as you go, haha, Team Hanzo!
You will feel cool. There is, if you do this on Junkrat, you can right-click the ground, and for that entire walk, you can aim your grenades. Same thing can happen with the way he fires his shots. You still have to stop to get a full auto attack out. You're not Tracer, but, I mean, it is elegant, man. I mean, the way he pulls back the bow while he's walking. Once it's pulled back full, you know that auto attack's ready. You even have a visual indicator in the corner to make these really big. They're not even stutter steps. They're, if you're stuttering, sleeping steps?
Stutter strolls.
Yeah.
Just going to go for a stroll, and every now and then you're going to stop and pop a shot.
Yeah, some good swagger in those things.
Yeah, some good stutter strolls, man. Stutter strolls. All right. Okay, cool. Well, you sold me a little bit more on it.
I haven't convinced you of it.
No, I'm giving you credit. You have softened me, sir. You have softened me. Okay? So feel good, because you've done more than anyone else ever has on the subject of Hanzo in 2 games now. But before we move on and wrap the show up with some emails, the patch is coming Tuesday if everything goes according to plan. We have talked about it at length, but let's just recap again for everybody out there. Here is your quick fire rendition of everything that is going to be coming this Tuesday to Heroes of the Storm. The big thing, the thing I'm the most excited about personally as a support main, or not a support main, a specialist main, laning phase changes. This is the patch where ammunition is going bye-bye. Infinite shots on towers, forts, and keeps. They're reducing the damage that these shots do to minions, and they're increasing minion damage 10% to all things, not just structures, to you. So don't just stand there getting wailed on by the minion wave thinking, oh, that damage increase was just to the wall. I mean, you shouldn't have been doing it already, but now it's going to hurt even more.
I've been teaching a lot of Dahaka this week, and you need to be aware of lane minion collapse. We talked about it on Braxis, how scary it is when that fort falls. All those computers find a new target, and if it's your face, you're dead. You need to be using lane minion collapses if you're not. Wait for the enemy minions to die. All your little computer gunmen on Volskaya, I guess archers and wizards and whatnot, look for a new target. That's when you land the drag. Pull them back. Hit that stun. All those minions focus their damage 10% more now. This is a great way to win your solo lane if you're not a solo laner.
That is that using your surroundings in the fight that you were talking about last week.
Yeah.
I believe we were just talking about Jackie Chan movies, but this also applies to Heroes of the Storm.
That's true. Actually, I think that was weak sauce.
Was it weak sauce? Oh, shit. I'm sorry.
Well, another advertisement for it right there. Go check out what the heck I was talking about when I was talking about Jackie Chan.
Yeah, weak sauce. Weak is spelt like days of the week. All one word, by the way, no space. Back into this. So, yeah, your towers are just going to keep firing. Your forts are just going to keep firing until they are dead. So it's also very important that you make sure there's something to tank tower hits if you're going to be in range of these things. You do have slightly more time to get out of those tower shots now, though, because they have to actually turn to face you before they start firing. So you're going to have this half a second to realize you done messed up and get out of range of the towers before they tear you a new one. By the way, those standalone towers, so the ones that are not part of the wall, that one straggler tower that was just hanging out next to that fort or keep, they are gone. And the health, the experience they granted when destroyed, and this is important to note, the damage of those standalone towers has now been redistributed around their surrounding towers, forts, and keeps. So your towers or forts... Go ahead.
We said that they was doing reduced damage to minions. These things are going to hit harder now.
Right. So they've given them all more damage because the standalone towers are going away, but then they reined in the damage to minions, not to you, the hero. They're going to hit harder than they ever did before, and they're not going to stop hitting. So keep all of that in mind. Forts now have true sight. So stealthies, not only are you having this big stealth rework to contend with, now if you are within range of an enemy fort or keep, you are revealed. You can be auto-attacked. You can have click cast abilities clicked right on top of you. So I was Valera today in a game with you, Kyle. We pushed everyone behind their keep, and I was just sitting right next to their keep waiting for some person to get a little brave and come out, and I will not be able to do that as of Tuesday.
Remember, too, as this is currently working, if the building is shut off for some reason by way of ability or curse, you have to exit the range of the site and then come back into it to have that to be stealthed. I was about to say unrevealed, but that's its own terminology.
Right.
I wouldn't want to do that.
Right, to be stealth. I mean, stealth is a whole other conversation that we have had on the past 2 episodes, so listen to those. The regeneration globe change is coming. This is probably the change, I think. Thinking back to our BlizzCon episode with Dunk Train, I think we were like the most excited just about the globe change because it's nuts. But this is the change where they switch to neutral after 3 seconds. So You kill the little wizard minion. He drops the regeneration globe. For 3 seconds, only you can grab that. After 3 seconds, it is now neutral for an additional 3 seconds, and the enemies can grab it. So your lane fight just got a lot more intense. I don't think anything scares me more than this change.
It's pretty scary, and the nightmare scenario is that Sonya, Greymane, whoever they are, barreling down your face. You're doing your best job to get them off the walls, to scare them away, but you end up using some collateral damage and taking out the wizard minion. You can't reach that orb. It turns into their orb. They have more mana. Li Ming is barreling you down. She has more spell damage more often, and you get completely crushed.
Now, if it gets that bad in this scenario, you should be pushed to your wall. Hopefully, the new changes to tower shots will kind of mitigate the effect of that.
Right. This is a really important conversation to have. The reason we play and do some stupid things in this game is because of what we've learned and seen up until this point. This change nullifies Kael'thas walking into lane and flame striking the lane from a distance. We used to do that. That is a real strategy because I'm killing their lane so it doesn't reach my wall, start destroying my tower ammo that would protect me from Zagara during the curse. So I'm Kael'thas fighting Sonya. I would cast Flame Strikes forward, cast all my spells way out in front of me to destroy that lane to make sure ammo stayed high and to make sure my buildings didn't slowly get worn down. If you do that now, you will be feeding double orbs to the enemy team. You will get rocked. There's no reason why we can't back up, let that reach the wall now.
Yep, and when it does reach the wall, count your towers, because I don't feel any of us have played this game any differently when there was one tower down versus no towers down. Now, with that regeneration globe change, if your enemy is picking up regeneration globes that should have gone to you, and there is now half the amount of tower damage coming in, that's a scary scenario.
And there's all sorts of cool ways this could go. We could end up with a real solo play meta. We're mixing in this too, the simplified battleground timers, which are increasing the amount of time until our call to action happens. We are in lane longer, up to a minute in some cases.
Yes. Yeah, so we've talked about that a bit, but just to recap, the first objective will now spawn 1 minute and 30 seconds into the match on Blackhearts, Braxis, and Dragonshire. 3 minutes into the match for the first objective for Battlefield, Cursed Hollow, Garden of Terror, Haunted Mines, Infernal Shrines, Sky Temple, Towers of Doom, and Warhead Junction. The only battlegrounds that are untouched are Tomb of the Spider Queen and Volskaya.
Makes sense. Volskaya was the newest map, ready to go, and Tomb of the Spider Queen, you still gotta accrue the gems, so the laning phase has always been important.
And Volskaya already had its pads called significantly early from the get-go, from the second it was in the game. We knew A was next, B was next, C was next. It's a very predictable map in that regard.
With these 30-second objective timers, we can expect people to be a lot more religious about their merc timings. It'll make things easier in that way, and while I am sad to lose many of my fantastic skills at having a feeling, I'm glad that we'll be more organized, and suggesting we hold off on a merc pad for the correct moment will just be simpler to do.
Yeah. Speaking of mercs, we mentioned it, but again, it bears repeating. Beware mercenaries. Knight Camp's armor have an aura, a 30 spell armor aura that is produced by the wizard knight. Now, we've always said, kill the wizard first. Now that's more true than it ever was. Kill the wizard first.
Yep, he's supplying that to his fellows when he is in mercenary camp mode, I believe. And when he starts walking down the lane, it's in a rather large area around him to everybody.
Yep.
But mainly those heroes. That's what you're concerned about.
Yep. Hellbats. Hellbats now apply a stacking armor debuff up to a maximum of 100, minus 100 armor. This does not apply to heroes. Your heroes are still capped at a maximum armor debuff of 75%. But to everything else, including structures, Hellbats can bring that armor down to a minus 100 debuff. That's huge. Also, minus 75% on your hero is also huge. Just because it can't go all the way up to full 100, you are going to need to be sure you can safely take that Hellbat camp before you start it.
Yeah, don't do this on Zul'jin anymore. The Hellbats, they're the giant camps of Warhead Junction and Braxis. We all go and solo them once in a while. Not very viable.
Yeah, the one thing that confuses me about this is Hellbats versus Siege Giants. So Siege Giants are now easier to take because their auto attacks are now dodgeable when you're taking the camp. They've always been dodgeable once they've been taken and they're marching down the lane at you. You can watch them throw the rock. You'll even see a little targeting reticule where the rock is going to land. You can move out of the way of it. That's now true when you're taking it. So why are Siege Giants easier to take and Hellbats are now way harder to take?
I don't know. On Braxis, I would say that as a 2-lane map, you might want to be managing your lanes efficiently anyway, and you have the people to spare to do a 2-man Merc Camp grab. But then we have Warhead Junction that also house these guys, and maybe they're looking to decrease Warhead Junction game time.
Maybe.
Because it's in the bottom lane. That's where the boss goes. You had some, you double stack those guys. You can probably win off that.
Yeah, okay. Can we get some Merc pressure in Volskaya, please, then, if that's happening? For the love of God.
Outside the top lane?
Can we get some unmanned Merc pressure going in Volskaya?
I think they put it in the only lane they really could. Can you imagine just anything with range making its way down that bottom lane when you're riding the conveyor belts? I hate that place. That's a rest, and it always comes at that 15-minute mark or it's just that point where the games can go bad. You can die in there, and I'm always telling my team to fight outside the pad.
I guess there are two minds because I hate it down there too, and that's why I want Merc pressure down there so I don't have to go there even more often.
So we can just ignore that one.
Not ignore it entirely, but every now and then I just feel like, God, can we just send a Merc camp down there and let's just ignore it for a little while. The objective isn't there. I really don't want to go down there. Anyway,
we haven't even mentioned the camera changes, but those are for all of us to learn together and miss all our skill shots together.
Mm-hmm. Yep. If you've missed the last few episodes, the camera is now going to be sitting higher in the sky. This is a good change. This is a great change in a strategic point of view. You're going to be able to see things coming from further away if you have sight of the area. Your sight radius is not being increased. But you're right. This is actually going to mess with your muscle memory on skill shots. Because now, unless you adjust your mouse sensitivity, a smaller movement on a mouse will create a larger change within the game.
It's also just shocking because one of my first thought was interesting. Everyone's missing their skill shots. What if I hit day 1 with a collection of right-click heroes while everyone's confused?
You're just gonna go back to Raynor. All right, boys, light them up.
Yep, line them up. This is my time. But honestly, Uther's Holy Shock, his Hammer, Alarak's Lightning, and I'm already beginning to struggle. Illidan's Dive, Chen. But really, when you start to think about it, you start to realize how hard they've worked to make sure this game is skill shot dependent. So many heroes, particularly when we look at something like KT compared to KT2, have been worked further in the skill shots. We have very few reliable abilities left in this game.
I would also like to mention that I played with some lovely Canadian Into the Nexus fans yesterday who refer to him as KZ. Like Jay-Z.
Oh, yeah.
And I knew exactly who they were talking about.
Yeah, KZ. Huh. Kind of ignores the T. A bit more. Maybe we should call him KZ. No. KTZ?
You have to ignore the T. That's the issue with Kel'Thas.
No, that's true.
So
otherwise, you start sounding like the Buzzard radio station or something.
KTZ.
The Buzzard.
That's the fake radio station that our morning show on Mondays comes from. KTZ. All right, so that's everything coming on Tuesday in a nutshell. I'm very excited for these changes, and even though, and I want you all to know, when I said I think the regeneration globe change scares me more than anything else, that does not mean I think it's a bad change. It just means that's the most dangerous change, but I think I like it.
definitely probably one of the more impactful, one of the ones we'll feel. I'm scared about those solo laners, you know? What about poor Sonya? We were just talking about it earlier. What is Sonya going to be like next week?
We'll have to find out.
Or will we all be running around with a Nubarax on Regeneration Master going, don't clear the lane, or clear the lane faster so it pushes? I don't know. It's going to be silly.
It's just Regeneration Master, freaking Anubrax, just cackling mad.
There was a time period where we didn't have Hero League, and I keep thinking of old balance patches today. But there was a time period where we didn't have ranked modes, and we got Nazebo. And Nazebos would gentleman farm in each other's faces. And they'd go, oh, I'll kill these minions. You kill my minions. We won't touch each other because that affects our farm. So we'll just agree to trade lanes. And they would do this. Before we had Double Soak, just sit in lanes. And when the two lanes would die, they'd just sit there staring at each other, waiting for the late game.
Yeah. Well, I'm ready, man. I'm really ready. I'm ready to just main Zagara, by the way. You should only play with me next week if you just really want to play with a Zagara.
Hey, man, they might lose that Hydra on the big new camera. There's lots of tricks to pull.
Oh, you're right. Oh, that's right. The Hydra and the Mutalisk are going to be smaller than they were before.
Yeah, so is Chromie, though. She is microscopic.
Oh, yeah, Murkies? Oh, Murkies. Oh, why? All right, well, whatever the case is, I'm still stoked for this. It's fine. It's all fine. It's going to be fine. Speaking of it's going to be fine, we have some patrons to thank. We got to thank our patrons today more than ever, Kyle. We got to thank our patrons. Hey, folks, real quick. We won't get too long-winded with this. If you want to hear like our unfiltered thoughts on everything going on with Patreon, this sounds like a shameless plug for our new show, Week Sauce, WEEK Sauce, all one word, and it kind of is. But also, for those of you who don't care about the Patreon change, either you are not a patron or you are a patron and you're not letting this affect you, I don't want to take too much time here, but it's kind of a big thing today. Patreon is changing their fee structure, and it is affecting per paid post Patreon pages more than anything else. And that is what Into the Nexus is. We have lost a lot of patrons today. There's no other way to really cut it, and I don't blame those people. If you disagree with Patreon's changes, voting with your wallet is really your only recourse. And on the flip side, we have some patrons right now who are imploring our other patrons to increase their pledges to cover the gap. And that is awesome, and I can't thank you all enough. In the meantime, if this does affect you, I would highly recommend going and reading the post from Patreon explaining why these fee changes are taking place. And since we are a per paid post episode, the best thing I can recommend for folks, if you don't want to pull your pledge entirely, which I would hope you wouldn't want to do, is at least for the time being, until Kyle and I decide what the long-term solution should be, is to take whatever your pledge was, whatever your per episode pledge is, and multiply that by 4 or by 5. We never post more than 5 episodes. It just depends on how many Thursdays there are in a month. That's what determines how much you pay in a given month. Take that, multiply it by 4, and then set a cap at that amount, because you cannot be charged beyond that. It basically turns it into just a one lump sum monthly payment. We may switch into the Nexus to a monthly service. We may switch to an entirely different service entirely. We're not sure. I'm still trying to understand why this change is coming and how we're going to react. But that's what's going on. So, to everyone who has supported us to this point, everyone's still supporting us, and even those of you who left today as a result of the announcement by Patreon, thank you so much for supporting Into the Nexus. If you would like to continue or start supporting Into the Nexus at the moment, patreon.com/ITN is still the best way to do so. Got to thank our producers, Declan H. and Cheesy Bob. And on this episode specifically, thank you to John K., thank you to Alex H., thank you to ONN, Big Ostrich 518. I don't think your mother gave you that name, and if your mother did, you've got an awesome mother. And Dylan W. Thank you very much for supporting our show. This is how Kyle and I keep roofs over our heads. So it's a little stressful at the moment while we try and figure out how this change affects us.
It's spooky. It's a big change to their structure. Long and short of it is, by being a weekly post, we incur more fees for you guys to pay when you support the show, and that isn't right. And so I urge everybody to be patient out there. We're trying to figure out what's going on. A lot of creators, if you're a podcast listener, you're 100% going to hear a lot about this week. And sorry to have it here in your ITN, but be patient. It doesn't go live till the 18th, and we're seeing what we can do to keep things the way they are, the way we want them to be.
And I've already received countless emails, countless tweets, countless messages. I'm even seeing them in Twitch chat right now saying, oh, just do X, just do Y. Most of them are just switch to monthly, and that is fine. It is not that easy. It isn't, because we would have to make all of our patrons that are currently there adjust their pledge. And there are many of you who support us just because you want to support us, and you don't check in on the Patreon, and you don't you're not interested in any of the perks that we offer, and that's fine. But it also means you don't check the Patreon that often, which would mean switching to monthly and having to get everyone to multiply their pledge by 4, so that Kyle, you and I are not making a quarter of what we were before, is problematic. And it's the same issue with swapping to a new platform, and that's why we don't know what we're doing right now. That's why we're not here giving you a hard, concrete, this is how we're pivoting. We need to figure it out.
It's sad, because I know you all took your time out of your day, your evening, that you want to be playing video games. I assume you listen to the show for tips, tricks, but also to entertain you in the time that you're not enjoying the video game you want to get to. And you took that time out of your free will and got out your wallet and got online for us. And I am sad that we have to ask you to do any more. So please be patient with us. Thank you so much. And hey, let's talk some heroes some more.
Absolutely. By the way, last thing, obviously, if you disagree with this, tell Patreon. Email them, tweet them, do whatever you can, make your voice heard. Because I can guarantee you I already did today in a rather heated phone call. So, anyways, on to emails. Let's hear from you about subjects other than this boring business crap.
Darkness stopped calling.
Hold on. Darkness just texted me.
Okay, tell them I'm not here.
You can send your emails to itncast@gmail.com. And one last time, but that is not where you should send emails about concerns about Patreon. Send those to Patreon. Brian writes in this week. He says, I played Heroes back in Alpha and Beta, and then again when Rexar came out, being my favorite hero. I've been really off and on since then, until now. I recently fell back in love with the game and have been grinding away in unranked to practice my heroes that I like, primarily tanks and bruisers. I thought, what the hell? I will jump into my placement games and see how it goes. I play only tanks and bruisers and end up placing in Plat 3. I'm just going to stop right here. Brian, congratulations, sir. Back to Brian's email. The problem is, I have no idea what I'm doing. I didn't read that right. The way Brian wrote this was, I have no idea what I'm doing. The voice crack was my own inflection. I don't know how to draft outside of tanks or play anything outside of tanks, and I have no idea what the established meta is at this point, so I am terrified to queue up again. Please help. Where can I learn about the overall meta along with the map meta? What heroes should I practice that are not tanks? Lastly, how should I practice? Also, you guys are awesome. Thank you, Brian. Kyle, I would like to preface anything that comes out of our mouths with just a reminder, we spent the last hour talking about how Heroes is changing in a huge way on Tuesday. So none of us really have the answer to this. Not a concrete one. And I'm not sure.
I think you can take some hints from it already. If you have a heavy solo lane presence and there's a bear you can send out in front of you to get the orbs for you, he might be doing okay come next week.
Are you saying just main Rexar?
I mean, it might. Who knows?
I do like some Rexar. Not to mention, you try and take that Hellbats, you're 2 heroes, and you can heal the one that's taking the damage.
If only Misha could man the gunner seat in the Volskaya Beast.
Oh, that would be good. You're right. You're absolutely right. But whatever the case, I'd like to give some general advice. Which the first thing I'd like to start off, and Kyle, this is 110% inspired by you. And the conversation we've been having, mostly off air, just about the kind of knee-jerk reactions to the Supportocapysle. But play what you like. Get yourself invested. Answer this question yourself. You know, what My question to you, Brian, is what assassins and what supports seem interesting to you? Because it sounds like you've got the tanking role locked up, and that's great. And secondary piece of advice, playing what you are good at has proven to be the best way to climb, at least in the experience of both Kyle and myself. So don't be afraid, especially if you're earlier on in the draft, to just bully pick. Take what you want to play, make the ladder picks adapt to you. And that sounds mean, but you're going to be a ladder pick in another game. Someone else is not going to take a role that needs to be filled, and you're going to have to adapt. So pay it forward in an aggressive fashion. but really get invested. You're going to have to fill an assassin slot. You're going to have to bring damage at some point. You're going to have to fill a healing slot. You're going to have to bring support at some point. So of those two roles, find heroes that you like. Do not just pick a hero because a tier list or because Hotslog's rankings told you that hero is good.
Because you're the one who has to get good at it in the end.
Exactly. At the end of the day, this is a video game. We are all playing it because it should be fun. So have fun and get invested. That way, when giant sweeping changes come, you can kind of look at it in a positive light, especially if it happens to a hero that you love, of challenge accepted. I get to relearn this hero all over again. I get to adapt again with a hero that I am invested in, instead of experiencing what I'm experiencing at the moment, which is specialists are useless at the moment. That was always my favorite thing to play. I don't know how to adapt, and now I'm just playing flavor of the week BS, and I'm not very good at any of it.
Also something to be said, though, about striking when the iron's hot, hitting when your meta's strongest if you're looking to climb. But that's kind of the cap of his whole conversation here, is he doesn't know the current meta. So it can be difficult to have a drafting discussion when you're newer to the game. I was teaching a lesson this past week where I was referring to characters as their facial hairs to make sure we could follow along, because the guy was pretty new. And he had fantastic questions about the game, but knowing the enemy on the other side of the lane knowledge is half the battle and stuff. So when things are confusing, if you have, and everyone's going to be confused come Tuesday, if you have a great understanding of just what you can do and you don't even know the enemy interactions, that's pretty darn powerful already.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, what would you even say the meta is right now? And is it even worth answering that question because of Tuesday's patch?
The meta for drafting right now, because it went to solo support in most leagues, is based around making sure you have enough healing and damage to win the game, as it should always be. Specialists are still out. Lane clear doesn't really matter. That's not how we're playing it. What you would want to do on a very, very base level, if he's playing mostly tanks and bruisers, is identify the level of healing and the level of damage on your team on the load screen, and even before that if you're an early pick. If you're a late pick, you really need to analyze that too. So let's think about Artanis versus Dahaka. Artanis has some catch. When he's damaged, he activates shields. This will give him a reduction to focus firing. When we look at Dahaka, he has a full-blown heal based on the essence he has collected in the lane and can dive underground during that heal. If I'm rocking a solo Lily, she is going to be putting every ounce of her effort into other players. The lowest health character, who's also likely to be the lowest total health character, because the flame strike hit, it hit everybody, and my percentage health is a lot higher than Vala's percentage health this moment, and health starts flying into Vala from the Lily with her having no control over it. My ability to control my own health makes me a more effective tank than Artanis in that situation. So you're always trying to match. You want to make sure there's enough damage to win the game in the first place. The next thing you got to do is make sure your tanks match your supports, that you don't have a overabundance of healing and there's no way to win the game. You can have this with double support and something like ETC. Even Garrosh, there's no damage there. Or you can have too much damage, but no way to survive the onset of battle, which something like Sonya, Dahaka, Muradin helps you recover from if you are lacking double support or a true solo support.
And what about one more question that Brian asked, which is, how do you even just stay up on this? So what resources do you use to stay up on the general meta and also the battleground meta? That is a question I have never had a straight answer to.
No, because the game moves too fast is the honest answer. And the pro scene is always happening. So there's no real downtime for our highest tier players to look at their time to run a basketball summer camp in a sense, because they're constantly on the go. So we don't really have high level exchanges. There was a great website like Nexus Masters in the past that contained a lot of this information, but it's out of date. It lacks the maps. I mean, it's also just the internet, and it's hard for gaming websites to make ad dollars because we're all tech-savvy gamers, and we ruin it for them sometimes, too. So we produce our own problems in many ways.
Yeah. No, I agree. So, you're already doing the right thing by listening to the podcasts. That's one of the main reasons we bring Dunk Train on, is because Dunk Train is very good at kind of... he's been a pro player. Now he is a Hero League climber. He's very good at digesting that. You're very good at digesting that type of stuff, Kyle, kind of taking what we're seeing in esports and transferring it into something that's actually usable for your weekend warrior in Hero League.
The best thing you can do to be good at Hero League is to play Hero League and make sure that your quick match heroes are focused on fun, 100%, something entirely different, so you don't even mess with your perception of your health, your skills, your talents. Or you're in there being a total butt, which is what I was doing this afternoon with you in the game, Garrett. I've been interested in maybe picking up Greymane again for this next season. And I have to learn what his health is and who I can 1v1. So you know who I'm going to challenge to a 1v1? Everybody! Every single person I met today, I rolled around and swiped them like a jackass.
And you lost a lot of those fights.
We did, and possibly because of me, because I dove what was previously totally a soloable Zebo who had hit level 20 and now was a beast because of level 20 talent. I learned lessons this day, and I'm going to be able to take those forward. And by acknowledging that I'm playing in this style, I'm learning a lot in an environment that usually doesn't teach me too much.
Fair enough. I was about to say, I wish you had told me that. I would have healed you. But now I'm like, oh, nope, never mind. You didn't want that.
Exactly. I didn't want that amount of attention.
Fair enough. But anyway, hopefully, Brian, this is all helpful to you. But again, I think you should just play things you like and keep playing Hero League. I'm not sure how to pronounce this. Finir? I'm going to say Finir. Writes in and says, I found the discussion of Volskaya with Dunk Train a few weeks ago very interesting. As he and Kyle talked, they mentioned the value of stacking heroes, and because he fights often, had to be won twice. They mentioned oh my goodness, I needed to proofread this ahead of time. Also, the mentioned value of disengaging to get mana, etc. after you beat the other team. What if we take that to a further extreme and focus on a team comp which doesn't use mana? Heroes such as Chen, Zarya, Morales, Ariel, Probius, Valera, Junkrat, and Sergeant Hammer do not use mana or are known for not having mana problems. Some of them also excel at take and hold point control. With not having to return to the Hall of Storms, they could easily remain on the point / applying pressure longer than a mana-based team. Do you feel this style of play could be effective? What benefits or downsides do you see? Any concerns? We talked a little bit about our concerns about Zarya already. Just doesn't seem to be working.
And if I can hear Dunk Train's voice echoing across the internet saying, you don't need to go that far. You don't need to go too wacky.
Right.
But I really like this idea.
It is interesting. I mean, I want to cherry pick here. Like Zarya, no. Valera, no. Junkrat, no. Sergeant Hammer, no. These are just...
What, are you giving Probius and Ariel and Chen the go?
More than the ones I just said, never take these on Volskaya, please.
It's interesting. And the idea of running one or two of these, and I've always been interested in Hammer on Volskaya because of her range and her sit there, do nothing attitude. We have to have somebody who does that, frankly. So often you win the team fight and the rest of the team goes, I'm off to soak. And you kind of leave, dad at home alone, sitting on the couch, waiting for a giant robot to fall from space. That's a little exciting, but
it's funny
sometimes it's the support because he's the more passive player and he gets left behind.
But the thing with that is anyone can do that. If the game state is safe enough for somebody to stay behind, anybody can stay behind. I don't think you need a hero that is specific for that. I find in my games, or at least I think this is, and Kyle, feel free to tell me if you think this is a trap mindset. I think one of the biggest issues with Volskaya are folks staying longer than they should because they don't have something like mana to naturally tell them, you should probably go back and freshen up after 2 of your teammates died and the other 2 have retreated. Just because you can continue fighting does not mean you should. That leaves you open for a free kill.
I feel like quite a bit of that is just age of the map. I remember how fervently and mad we fought for Cursed Hollow back in the day. And now we can be like, give. And people go, yeah, give. Good call. It's just so long, Cursed Hollow comes and goes. It has a give mentality to it, too, because you have to have 3 to activate it. I feel like we still do this on Towers of Doom. So it really has to do with the sort of game's feedback. It hurts to have those towers go off. The Raven Lord insults your face. So you're going to dive into the last minute. Whereas, we don't really like the robot, but we're also totally insane for it.
Yeah.
So it makes it real weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this is a bit too crazy. I think Chen's fine, but you got to, if the other team has too many stuns, he's just going to die. Morales, I'm all on Morales. Go nuts. Take Morales every game you can, is in my opinion right now. Probius, I love me some Probius zone control on that pad personally. But Zarya is just, I think, struggling at the moment. Valera and Stealthies in general tend to get themselves in trouble on this map.
You will also be visible on the pad come Tuesday.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Especially after Tuesday. Stealthy's going to have a huge problem.
Revealed.
Yeah. I'm just a Junkrat hater. I will say it. I think he's bad and I don't want him in my games.
I saw the Junkrat God. I don't remember a thing about his name because we won in 12 minutes. He was incredible. He used the neutral skin too, which was frightening. But he had a portrait that was Junkrat. I like that. That was reassuring on the load screen.
There are neutrals now because of the way skins work. There are neutral skins I just like. I just like how certain heroes look in their normal skin. Alex Straza is one of them. That's Alex Straza to me, man. That's who I went to Wormrest Temple and talked to.
I do love that gold one, where she's wearing the white and she turns into the white, gold, red dragon.
Oh, yeah, you're right. The dragon variants can sell you, but let's face it, majority of the time you're looking at a blood elf.
If I were to sort of on paper imagine the perfect Volskaya comp, I'd be really interested in something like Malfurion, where you can give mana to people as they pop inside the robot and then come out the other end once in a while, like we were talking with Dunk Train, doing the shuffle, doing the juggle, with that increased mana having regenerated while inside. Like, what if you did something like, for instance, let's just say Chen is totally in, and everybody loves him. He lasts an infinite amount of time on the pad, but we also run something stupid, crazy, mana expensive like Kael'thas with no talents at all to help him out, and let him run out of mana, and he's the one who rides the robot in all those situations.
No, that's interesting. I mean, that is good. I'm also hoping, though, that we don't need to worry about this robot jump dance for much longer. They said that they're looking at the mech, that adjustments will eventually be made. I hope it's sooner rather than later, because I really find it absurd that we're fighting over this thing that we don't even really want to use.
Yeah, we fought, though. It was interesting. We did fight a Malfurion today on Volskaya, you and I. And he would always take the robot. And at first, it limited the enemy's options heavily. They had no support. But later on, as we dogpiled the robot and Malfurion would emerge with a silencing explosion and murder us all, it seemed like a pretty sick strat.
Oh, yeah. It was just a bomb. It was a freaking Trojan horse. And that can work on that battleground because you can get out of it. That's something you would never want on Garden of Terror or on Dragonshire. If you're a healer, to just be like, And now I'm a dragon who cannot heal you. Enjoy. It's not something you want because it can't get out of the Dragon Knight and give it to somebody else. But that's a good point. But I'm also hoping that just in the near future, the mech is something we want to stay in and throw down in. And even though we have the option, that's cool. That means it's now a decision to throw Malfurion in there as opposed to leaning towards a rule.
Yeah.
So whatever the case is, Volskaya is weird, man. I still don't think I like it.
I like it better than Blackheart's Bay, and I think Garden Terror perhaps just because it's new. I really like point control. I get excited about tower defense and all that sort of stuff. But I agree, it's odd. It's very dangerous too, and that's really speaking to the movement pads, the conveyor belts. It's just easy to lose at that bottom one and that B game.
Is it bad that I just kind of wish they would get rid of the conveyor belts? I really don't like them.
They seem so fun. When we were putting Gazlo turrets and Probius cannons on them, I was super into it.
I have this in games at times. The best example I can give you, Kyle, is do you remember Wrath of the Lich King?
Yeah.
All right. Do you remember how it seemed like every other thing you did was not controlling a hero but controlling a vehicle?
Mm-hmm.
That soured Wrath for me. Otherwise, my favorite thing in the history of MMOs, the black mark on it, is the fact that most of the time I wish I was just controlling my damn hero. I didn't roll a gnomish siege tank. I rolled a Blood Elf Paladin. I want to play my Blood Elf Paladin. I came to heroes for a tactical, isometric MOBA experience. I don't need wacky treadmills in there.
I feel you. And that's a particularly strong point against things like a vehicle in this game. And they could get overused. And maybe we need to limit that. Kind of like we limit our 2-lane maps. We make sure there's just not too many in each rotation.
I definitely prefer maps where whatever the objective is, it does its own thing once you win it. Personally. And I'm not trying to win an argument here. Like if you're out there and you're like, Garrett, I love the treadmills. Great. That's awesome. I'm literally asking everyone out there, like, am I weird that I really hate the treadmills? I'm just curious. It's just my opinion on the matter.
I mean, I've had that moment where I was Zul'jin and I rode the full length auto attacking. Like the team fight's happening there in the middle of the bottom C, and the entire box, just throwing axes, dodging skill shots, not moving. Just dodging skill shots. Tyrande, you missed your stun. Doesn't matter. Just keep going. It was great. But those moments are few and far between, in the moments where you end up being plowed in the side of a route that isn't moving, but the Medivh portal is, and the inconsistency of that. I do surrender to your point.
Like I said, wasn't trying to win an argument. I was just trying to connect with other human beings who I want to hear from both sides. No, I hate the treadmill. Yes, I love them. Do your thing. So whatever. And
there's a great mentality to, don't control my character for me. Don't stun my character so long that I don't get to participate. Just murder me. If I'm going to be murdered anyway by being relocated by a treadmill, make them piles of fire then.
Yeah. And to bring it back to Fanir's question, I don't want to completely just kind of like disarm what you put out there, because this is the type of like fun themed comp that I love. I love hearing about these kind of things. I want you to go and try it, and I want you to tell us how it went, because you and I have had nights like that where we've had a 5-stack and like what nutsoid theme can we come up with, whether it's all specialists or all support games are some of my favorite things you could possibly do, because they're just completely bonkers. So don't let me, again, I wasn't trying to win an argument, but there's a lot of heroes here that I personally wouldn't love to make up my entire comp.
Yeah, no, I think it's a fascinating idea to think about manaless heroes, and it's also fascinating to think, what about treadmill heroes? Maybe we don't draft strong enough for both Sky. And like I've been saying this whole episode, the magic of the perceived double stealth nerf and in all its drama is that we have map picks again, and there's room for something interesting to happen.
Yeah. And you've hit something that's very important, Kyle. We need more treadmill heroes. Where's the Wii Fit trainer?
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. Can run normally on treadmills because she's accustomed to it.
She's conditioned.
Yeah.
It's the only map where you'll ever see her running at normal speed. Every other map she runs faster. But on Volskaya, if she steps on a treadmill, now she's moving at normal hero speed. This is really dumb and a great way to bring the show to a conclusion. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you for powering through weird discussions of stuff happening over at Patreon. Again, though, if you are not dissuaded by the strange things happening over at Patreon at the moment, check out patreon.com/ITN because it is still the best way to support Kyle and I and this podcast. Thank you again to our producers, Declan H. and Cheesy Bob. Into the Nexus swag is available. We have t-shirts over at shirts.amove.tv. We have custom etched glassware, which you can find at etched.amove.tv. We are live Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, except for next week, where we'll be recording on Wednesday, because Thursday is Star Wars Day. I didn't take off for Force Awakens, but I'm taking off this year because friends of mine bought me premiere tickets on my behalf. So I am going. The first possible showing.
There's a smaller chance that it'll suck, too.
What do you mean a smaller chance?
Well, you know, our previous Star Wars endeavors weren't exactly the most fruitful things in the world, talking about the prequels. Oh. And new Star Wars starting up, and they're not planning to do it in one movie, and that's always spooky.
I mean, it doesn't matter for me. I am one of the biggest Star Wars apologists you'll ever meet. I love it.
That's how you're sold.
It is my favorite thing in the world. As long as they keep making Star Wars movies, I will keep going. It's fine. It's all fine. Follow us on Twitter at ITNcast. It keeps you up to date on things like schedule changes, like what's happening on next week. And we got to thank Gorath for our intro music and BrianGriffithMusic.com for our outro music. Check him out if you need some podcast music or music for anything. Doesn't have to be a podcast, video games, commercials. Check him out, BrianGriffithMusic.com. Kyle, you do other things other than Into the Nexus. Where can folks find such creations?
You can find links to everything over at KyleFergusson.com, including a new batch of lessons. Just posted them up this morning. New times available over at KyleFergusson.com. 2 S's in Fergusson. Check it out. Holiday gifts going after the holidays as well. Getting to help a lot of people. And of course, with these changes coming up, it's a good time to take a look at your roster and get some tips on how to execute in both senses of the word.
Awesome. Folks, I'm Garrett Art on Twitter. Every podcast I do is over at amove.tv. I'm very excited for Star Wars, so you should go check out Let's Talk About Star Wars. I'm very excited about talking to Kyle about subjects other than Heroes of the Storm, so you should go check out our brand new show. There's only 1 episode out so far. Get in on the ground floor. Week Sauce. Spelt like days of the week, all one word. Week Sauce. It's on iTunes. It's on Google Play. It's on just about every other podcatcher I have checked, other than Stitcher, because they can kiss my butt until I'm dead. That's going to wrap it up for this episode of Into the Nexus. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and until next week, good luck and have fun.
Take care.